All right, hello everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy Over Your New Reader. Josh, I'll tell you what's up. We're doing Over Your New Reader. Hi. But before we get started talking about the Patreon pick, Warlords of Appalachia, which is how I will call it, I'd like to introduce my co-host. But first, let's start with Joe because it's Joe's first time hanging out with us. And I should have
Hello.
asked you earlier, but I went way past you and immediately asked your daughter to be on the show.
It's all good. It hurt a little bit, but it's all right. She was parading around the apartment like, guess who's going on the show?
Flipping her hair, you
Yeah.
know. So, Joe, can you tell us a
Yes.
little bit about yourself and your comic book origin? I like to do that for new people.
Ooh, okay. Live in New York City. Comic book origin. I've been reading comics since I was 6. First comic I read was Fantastic Four 250.
Wow, you even remember I was impressed by people
I
that remember like the
remember
first issue of the
because it
comic that they
was,
read.
yeah, it was so, like, I remember my father just bringing me a stack of comics and Fantastic Four was right on top. And I was like, what is this? And I was hooked. I was just going through all the books. And I have a love affair with comics since then. In and out, in and out. It wasn't until you guys and all the various channels on collected editions and stuff that I was like, oh wait a minute, maybe I could just, because I was tired of collecting floppies. I was just
Oh
tired of
yeah.
it. And I would always go into a comic book store and I would never look at the collected editions. It was always the floppies. But now I was like, let me try something new. Let's go to the collected editions. And you guys don't help. You guys hurt my wallet so much. So
Oh, I understand because I never had interest until in comic books. I was like, I'm never gonna do that.
right,
Like, I'm a geek, but I'm not gonna do comic books.
right.
Until asking Omar for suggestions, and then next thing
Hmm.
you know, I'm part of the Omnibus Collectors group, and then it's just like, oh no.
Right.
And now I have a lot of bookshelves full,
Hmm.
and these channels don't help, and Kristen absolutely does not help.
You're welcome.
And
Yeah.
next thing you know, Lee's posting on Facebook like, hey, any suggestions for comic books? And I was like, now we're all stuck here together.
Yeah.
But
But
I'm excited to have you.
that's the quick and short of it.
I love it. It's a perfect
Yeah.
origin story. And we also have some returnees here. Luscious Lee, a fellow long-term Kentuckian from
Indeed.
Kentucky, like myself. But you're more. I think you are more towards the Appalachians than I was. I am, because I was Western Kentucky born.
Okay. So I was born about an hour south of Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh,
My
okay.
wife is from the heart of Eastern Kentucky, and we got together when we were 15. So I half grew up in
Yeah.
Eastern Kentucky
So it's
on that
a
side of the
beautiful
state.
young Kentucky love,
Yeah.
and somehow very liberal. Who would have thought?
Love
And then,
it.
of course, my platonic soulmate,
Oh.
the love of my life, Kristen, aka the Comic Slayer, who I get to see in person in 2
Yeah.
days.
What are we gonna do?
I don't know. I'm so excited.
It's gonna be the best.
Ooh.
Hope you guys got the food sorted out because I know that was a thing.
Well, we're gonna. I've got a list.
Maddie's chosen. Oh, you have multiple things?
Well, because
That's
I don't.
true.
We have to.
How long are we gonna be hanging out?
I
Yeah.
don't know. We gotta figure it out. Because
Yeah.
have you gone to my favorite donut place in town? Like, we also figure
Oh,
that out.
you mean the donut place?
The donut place.
Oh, yeah. We should go. We have to
Okay.
go.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's perfect.
Yeah. My daddy
Yep.
would. My dad would give me 2 chocolate wontons and a chocolate milk
Oh.
on the way to school, which is why I have a
It's a
weight
lot of
problem.
chocolate.
Anyways, so we are here to talk about Warlords of Appalachia. So Lee gave me the wonderful idea this month for Patreon to suggest Kentucky readers because everybody on Near My Condition is from Kentucky, lives in Kentucky. And I was like, oh, great idea. And we've had Chris Schweitzer up in here. Why am I talking? We've had Chris Schweitzer on the show before, who is a wonderful Kentucky creator and looks like Ron from Parks and Recreation, a very Kentucky guy. And he also gave us some great recommendations. And ultimately, Warlords of Appalachia won, which I was really excited about because I've had a copy from Half Price Books for like a year. Bought on premise alone. And now I had an excuse to read it. So that's great. And Lee is our oldest reader here because he's read it several times. I read it once an hour before the show. Joe has read it twice. Kristen has read it at some point.
Yeah.
What happened?
Once a few days ago.
Yeah. I've been too busy playing Hades, you guys, so that's how it is. Ugh. I can talk, I promise. So, before we get into talking about it, quick little description of the book. I'm actually going to read directly from the back of it because I think it's the best description possible, which is, following the controversial election of an enigmatic dictator, the United States was plunged into a second civil war, and the aftermath of which only Kentucky refused to acknowledge the fascist state's sovereignty. Now a demilitarized zone located in the heart of America, it will take the combined forces of civilians and criminals to overthrow the occupation. In leading this rebellion, former mechanic and reluctant folk hero, Cade Mercer, I'm assuming that's how you say his name, will become the first feudal warlord of Appalachia, which is a wonderful premise. It honestly sounds like a D&D campaign or like a tabletop role-playing campaign that I could really get behind. So Near Mint Condition reviews KCC Kentucky Cool Comics. I'm assuming that's not a real thing and a funny thing you made up, but that should be a thing. Or like Kentucky, isn't Kentucky Fried Comics a thing? I think that's a comic distributor.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, before we jump in, I'd love to get initial thoughts from everybody, and then we'll get into the nitty and gritty. I'll start with our newest edition. Joe.
All right.
First thoughts.
My first thoughts was that this chat might be very spicy tonight because of the it's so close to the former administration and
yeah.
So I was like, this is gonna be interesting. This is what you want to throw me into the deep end, huh?
Yeah, which was apparently accidental. I don't know if I very rarely read anything at the end of the book, which is a bad thing. But this time I did because I was interested in like where he got the stuff from, and he wrote the first issue came out like a couple weeks before the election results or something.
Yep, exactly. Yep, that was in the afterword. Yeah, he mentioned that.
Yep.
Which is wild.
Yeah. So so that was my initial thought. So I'm gonna fast forward. So after finishing the 4 issues, because there's only 4, I felt like I just wanted more. This was a good stepping stone for a bigger story, because there's still a bunch of things that were touched on, but I wanted to get expanded upon. Things like Sweet Rock. I want to know more about that. Why is Cade? I mean, they hint at why he's treated this way, but I want to know more about that. So yeah, I'm very much interested if this writer is going to go and make some more. This is a great first 4 issues of hopefully a bigger story.
Yeah, absolutely agree, because they definitely pack a ton in here.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's to like get people interested in more, but I know that there's not anymore.
Right.
But like if they ever come back, they have limitless things to talk about. And we will mention blue people at some point because that's a real thing.
Right. Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
It's a real medical condition in Kentucky,
Yeah.
Really? Oh, okay.
I mean, not anymore. I think the last person passed away, but yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, Kristen, I know that you said you're going to be in the minority here.
Yeah.
Any initial thoughts you want to share, or we can save them?
You want me to just go into it? I can go into it.
Go for it.
See, here's my deal. I very much enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed what was happening. I had a good time. It was a quick read. I appreciate a good quick read, right? Until I got to the end where there wasn't more. Joe's real nice. He's like, oh yeah, it's great if there's more. I'm like, there's not more. I looked it up.
Maybe there will be.
There won't be. This ended in 2017. It's not happening. So now I'm just mad. Now I'm like, what did I just read? Why? There's not more? What's happening? You gave me no answers to like anything. And then it just ended. And I'm upset about it.
That's how there's a lot. And I know, Lee, you've been tweeting at the creator frequently enough.
Yeah, maybe there is more, Lee. Am I wrong? What's happening?
So about once every 2 months, I tweet at Phillip Kennedy Johnson asking him when he's going to put out the next issue, and every once in a while he answers me and says that he's definitely planning to write more, but because of his schedule, he's just not gotten around to it. Right? Because I think right now he's the new Superman writer, right? Or he's
I don't
writing.
know.
He's writing a Superman ongoing for.
Kristen is all about that.
Can't believe he left this to go write some Superman garbage. What are we doing? What is happening?
Superman runs pretty good. So,
Is it though?
but yeah, so every once in a while, I tweet at the guy to ask him if he's going to do this. My hope is that he has no memory of who I am every time, so he thinks that different people
More fans
are constantly asking him to write more of it. Yeah.
You know, that could be how we do this. Everyone in the comments, or like who's watching later, can tweet at him and be like, listen.
So I
folks
tagged him in this video earlier.
Okay, they're very upset there's not
tune in.
more.
I know that happens sometimes on your channel. Sometimes creators tune in to watch a video. So
and we may not believe it's you.
They pull a Gail Simone and be like, "That's not you. What's happening?"
It could happen.
All right.
Mary said Chris is bringing the heat, and I love it.
So what about you, Maddie?
I got myself. I need to read again because I found myself getting lost in like some of the narrative, but mostly when Roth was talking, like the president. The way he was talking about stuff, I was kind of confused when I was going throughout about where he was or what he was trying to, like, his point. But as far as, like, the overall characters and, like, the themes, I thought were really cool. There's a lot to get in there. Obviously, the guy did his research. And honestly, maybe want to do some more research on some things afterwards, because there's definitely things he drew on. He mentioned it. You don't need to know to understand, but if you do, that's, it kind of enhances the reading. And so I'd like to kind of look up some more of these stuff later, but the stuff about like the drugs, which is actually a big part of Kentucky, unfortunately, and then like Charlie's like using the blue people, but making it like a religious thing, but like they're like a different level of people. It was very neat, and it was kind of refreshing to see Kentucky against like fascist government system, which is not real. But I thought it was cool, and any sort of like a dad character, I'm gonna like them. I didn't need to see the thing about the dog, unnecessary, but everything else was great. So Lee, I'm curious about what's one, why you've recommended them, and two, why you visited again and again. Before we get into like jump in the story and start talking about stuff.
All right. So first thing, I picked the book up on the title alone in Barnes and Noble in Washington D.C. Whenever you first got me into comic books several years ago, I think I got it right after the trade came out. It was like the second or third book I read after I got back into comics, and I really liked it at the time. And I'll talk about this. I specifically like the way it uses music. And I picked it up.
Yeah, I wish I could read music anymore, because I was like, I bet this sounds cool.
I picked it up expecting it to be cliche bullshit, but it wasn't. It's actually accurate to the region in certain ways, to the point that I wonder if people who aren't from here will fully understand the book. The one way, you've already mentioned this, that I think it is not really indicative of the region. Kentucky would not be the state that secedes from the Union in protest of a fascist takeover of the U.S. government. That's not the politics of the people here. That's not the culture of the people here. But the rest of it, the characterization and everything, I really, really like. Plus, you mentioned my politics at the beginning of the show, right? So there is a strong but small community in Eastern Kentucky, which is the part of Appalachia the book's set in, that is really hardcore on the left side of politics. Most of it comes from a strong Union background, from the coal mining professions and everything. So I liked that the book leaned that way, and then I ended up looking up the author because at the time I'd never heard of PKJ, never heard of him. I discovered he lived in Kentucky for several years. That's one of the reasons it feels accurate. And then I was interested in the use of music because I really like music as it ties into literature. I especially love when like poetry gets tied in
Yeah.
to stuff, and that created a whole different thing for me because PKJ is actually an active duty composer and musician for the United States Army. I wrote
Okay.
this down. Give me a second. He's I wrote down his. I
I'm
wrote
always
down
so
his.
surprised when I
Yeah,
see like comic book writers and things that worked with like the state. Like,
yeah.
oh, cool.
So he is Sergeant First Class Phillip Kennedy Johnson
You should
is a
put that on his
composer
like
and
title.
uh,
Mhm.
so music ties into this really well. In addition to him writing comic books, so I love the way all of that stuff played together. And then the book has nostalgic elements for me in some of the narrative choices. For instance, it's a very '90s comic book. There are like cyborg ninja super soldiers, which is like the most Rob Liefeld thing that you can put in a comic, right? And that reminded me of reading these trash comics from whenever I was a kid. So all these things come together, and they create a book that keeps pulling me back, despite the fact that I have a couple of problems with it.
Ooh. Want to hear the problems.
Yeah, we'll get to them, I'm sure.
So I'm
Real
trying to figure out
quick,
the best way for. Oh, please go, Ben.
no, real quick. You mentioned musically. Have any of you guys seen the trailer for this? There's a
No,
trailer.
There's
There's
a
a
trailer
trailer
for it.
on YouTube
Oh
that
shit.
somebody is singing the song from the first page
Oh, okay.
over the trailer.
So, for those of you who may
Yeah.
not have read at home, there are 4 issues.
Right.
Each issue actually starts with sheet music of a
Right.
folk song, bluegrass song, or gospel song central to the region of eastern Kentucky. In addition, some of the characters in the book, the blue people we mentioned earlier, that communicate through music. Um, so, no, I didn't know there was a
Yeah, there's
trailer
a
for it.
trailer. I think it's under the
It
writer's
looks like.
personal YouTube page.
Okay.
Yeah. I just listened to it for a second.
Yeah.
That is so
Yeah,
cool.
the song is "Where Have You Gone, Joyful Valley of Old," which is an
Right.
old hymn.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cool. So I'm trying to figure out what the best parts are like. 'Cause there's a lot that is going on here.
Sure.
And usually if we're talking about a comic, I'm like, okay, yeah, we can go in stages. But there's a lot of things.
Mhm.
So I don't know if it's better to talk about parts of the story or just talk about our favorite parts or like our problems we have with it or how the best to dig in. Anyone has any suggestions?
I mean, I could tell you some things that happen in the book that I want to know more of.
Please.
Let's talk. That's perfect.
For example, the crate that was dropped
Yeah.
by obviously sympathizers to Kentucky. Where did it come from? I want to know more of that type of thing.
I guess we could talk about that more, like the because we have the president, right, who the whole time is trying to spread these lies about Kentucky
Right.
as this, the propaganda of like nobody's helping them,
Right.
no one cares about them, no one's sending aid, they rely on us, and then
Right.
the first thing you see is that crate from, I guess, sympathizers that could be international.
Right. And who knows? But that crate plays a bigger part later on. But yeah, it like you said, Maddie, you read what Roth is saying. Like, there's nobody here for Kentucky, but on the same panel is this crate that's saying we believe in you, or we stand with you, Kentucky. So I want to know more about that. Like, where did that come from? No.
Yeah, and I'd like to know more about how everybody else like. I mean, there's so much. I guess that's gonna be a big thing to talk about. What we want to know more about. It's probably
Yeah.
an easy way to talk about stuff. Because I do want to know more about like how this plays in. Because they kind of talk about how everything happened and how it got together, but I still don't think I got a complete picture of like how exactly this movement happened.
Right.
Like I'm filling in the blanks for myself, and I think luckily the writer had a lot to go off of after that first issue came out.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I never had a complete picture of like what exactly happened. Maybe I was reading too fast, and maybe Lee can speak on it. But I feel like it was just all of a sudden like I knew there was a big movement, and like everyone eventually seceded typically, and Kentucky was all one by itself. I don't know why or what
So
exactly was happening.
So it's dropped in context in like 2 or 3 sentences that are played against the background of action, right? So sometime between now and then, a new version of Christianity sweeps eastern Kentucky. They're the Waterborn, right? They follow the Book of Luther. It's a new form of like evangelical Christianity. For some reason, this new religious tradition clashes with the new dictatorial regime that's taking over America, and the Kentucky National Guard revolts against the larger United States Armed Forces. This results in like a lot of localized fighting, and the local fighters fight the National Armed Forces to a standstill, and they declare a DMZ occupied zone. Now, the occupied zone in the book, and this is a critique that I have that I haven't seen others make, it's really, really similar to what happened to the situation in Palestine right now.
Yeah.
So there's no way to get around sensitive politics with this book, right? It's an anti.
No,
The
'cause I
book
was
is
about to
it's an
say.
anti-Trump book. Roth, the president in the book, is Trump. He looks like Trump. He talks like Trump. And the book, like as stated by the author, in the afterword that's printed in the book is anti-Trump. So the Kentucky DMZ runs largely the way the Palestinian territory is run by the state of Israel. Now, that gets politically tricky to put in a book because a lot of times American sci-fi does this strange thing that's like, what if things that happen to people in other places happened here to white people, right? For instance, The Handmaid's Tale is largely just Taliban rule in Afghanistan, almost entirely, right? But it's big and scary and new and frightening because it's happening to white people. So that's a critique I have with the book, but that gets at like what y'all are talking about now. You are correct. None of that shit is explained well. That is pieced together from like 2 sentences.
Yeah, because I would love like later on if it was more developed that we had a little bit of time that like a flashback time that shows the beginning of this. And then I can feel like I understand a little bit more about how we got here. Because on one hand, I do see, man, you had some Kentucky National Guard that was like, oh, we get to like stand up for our people, fight the government with our guns. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like their wet dream a little bit.
For sure.
But it would be a different situation. But I'm very curious because also it just seems like they immediately went into this like one aspect I thought was interesting and very rural Kentucky. They immediately went into like this almost like family groups and like they immediately community together. Like the way that they grouped together was really interesting. And I think that explains why they were so successful because they were like, okay, we have our community, our family hubs here. Who are you kin with? Let's make sure we stick together.
Right.
And everybody knows each other. Like, you know, they knew his mom. Like, oh, she's the mechanic. That's really cute. I shouldn't say that's cute in this book, but it makes me feel better. I guess another thing we talk about is, well, actually, in the beginning of this book, we are introduced to our main character and his family. We have him and his mom and his son, who we learn is like a blue boy. That's because his mother was an addict, so he came out that way instead of like being addicted, which is very different than like the blue people that are in the rest of the book who have chosen to be, or no, I shouldn't say chosen, through circumstance or whatever, have taken this drug and it being blue people,
Right.
which is very like, you know, is a lot like just the opioid issue and everything else and meth and everything, but it goes a little bit farther than that. So I was curious about how you all thought about them because for one thing, it was an interesting amalgamation of things. I think they're interesting by themselves, almost like White Walker interesting is what I kept thinking about, like Game of Thrones, but also interesting in Kentucky context because like people in the chat, blue people were real. It was like a genetic disorder in Kentucky, and there was a group of family that were like people were very prejudiced against them. They had certain beliefs against them. And even when it came time to cure it, they're like, "What's the point now? This is who I am." So it really stems from like Kentucky history, and the drug issues in Appalachia are a big deal as well. So there's like a little like combining all that with like the religious thing is very interesting. So I was curious about what you all thought about that aspect of the book.
I'll jump in. Well, I guess the moment that was intriguing to me was when Chester, who's the son of Cade, encounters blue people, and there's kind of like a telepathic or hive mind thing happening. And then they mention that Rose is his mom, is still a part of them in some way, shape, or form. And I'm trying to remember the panel, but you could kind of see her standing next to them. You know, it seemed like it was off the water or something, but you could see a figure standing there. So, just want to know more about that as well. Like, because again, the book was grounded in like grittiness, but then now you have this not supernatural, but like this kind of superpower thing happening.
Yeah.
So want to know more about. Also, that leads to what is this drug made out of that would cause this to happen?
Yeah, like what's the reason? Like, why is this kid, I guess, the messiah of this group? I have like no Bible knowledge, so this whole like book it's from or whatever. I mean, I was raised Catholic. I'm from a Catholic family, but we didn't like read it. You know, I can just do the hand jive and the motion, but that's about it. But it's cool. Like, I understand like how it was set up, and I want to know more about Chess. Because it makes sense that he would be this like special figure.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the best character.
Oh, he was the cutest.
He was the best character. It's like, where's the rest? Give me more of this kid. What's going on with this kid?
Because he's super strong, so he's got like the drug strength. Apparently, he's really smart.
He couldn't wait to get his hands on that clipboard. He was like, "Give me this thing."
That was the best.
So cool. Like I'm like, you know, you're dumb. He said a different word.
Yeah.
I won't say.
Right.
So this kid's pointless. And he's like immediately like MacGyvered that shit.
Right.
And like got himself out of there. I was like, that is so cool. Like I love that his father was like, no, you don't understand. This is my kid. He is intelligent. He is smart. He does understand. He's not like them. So when I saw him at the beginning, I was like, oh, so you just picked up some zombie kid who like happens to have feelings. Is what I assumed because he wasn't talking. But yeah, I want to know. Because once they met them, and you saw the people like the church, like worshiping, that was really surprising me. Because when they first described it, I was like, oh, they just live in the mountains and like attack you because they've gone crazy from the drugs or something. But they have a lot of knowledge to them. They have like a reason that they do it. Like there's a lot more weight to that than I was expecting. Because I just imagine like typical drug addled people.
Right.
Which is also
there's an allegory for the region.
Yeah.
Like that's what the author is doing here. Is like people from outside the region view everyone here as a Oxycontin or meth addicted violent hillbilly.
Which is what Ross said.
Which is what Ross says, right? And it's what people who come here think that the people will be like. Now, there is a guardedness to people who are from here. There are drug issues here, but I've lived all over the world, and I don't feel that the issues that this region has are any more egregious that they would make you think people here are more dangerous than they are anywhere else. But people here have that reputation or that atmosphere to a lot of people from other places who aren't as informed or aren't as experienced with people from here. But it shows a couple of things like, okay, these are people who are in a difficult circumstance that is not of their own making, and they are behaving in logical ways according to their environment that allow them to take care of each other. Right? That's what you see from the blue people. You are presented them from the point of view of the occupier. The occupier is like, these are a bunch of savage blue animals who will attack you as soon as look at you. And then you see that, oh, they have a culture, They have a thought process. They have a leadership hierarchy. They make decisions based on their own self-interest, right? It's an allegory for the region as a whole. When I first read the book, I was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, they're just doing Kentucky meth addicts again." And then I realized the further I get into the book that there's there's a depth to it there that sort of explains it.
Yeah, it was refreshing for sure.
Yeah.
And then really the first people that attack in the woods, who I would assume would be the blue people, were just like these crazy mutant U.S. Army people.
Hence the trash comics, right? That's what
Yeah.
Straight up reminded me of a Liefeld character, augmented everything. I was like, whoa, there's a curveball here. But
yeah, I'm wondering a lot of
absolutely
weird
love
anime
that
I've watched because all the the weird body parts and the things. I was like, I've definitely read some very descript anime or manga that does that kind of thing.
Now, don't you love how a book that takes itself so seriously for the period it needs to use those cyber commandos, the book decides that, all right, for the next 16 pages, this book will suspend all of this shit we've been talking about occupation, national identity, drug addiction, the national political landscape. We're going to get rid of all that, and right now you get to watch robot soldiers fight each other.
right.
In a very Saturday morning G.I. Joe cartoon kind of way, right? I love that the book takes a moment to have fun with that, because otherwise it's kind of a dark book. It's a book about fucking war crimes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think if this was ever a show, it would be really refreshing. Not that I know I always get heat. I'm like, this should be a show, but you know what? Sometimes comics should be shows, okay? And it would be cool.
As long as it doesn't get canceled.
Please don't bring that up to me, okay?
Kristen is spicy.
Is there more? I'm just. if we step back and we're like, hey, this is it, how do we feel then?
Not as good. But I really like it. But I do agree that it's the promise of something. That is good. And that if it's just this, I'm very sad. And that it's not as good, because you set up a lot of things that you can't finish.
Sure.
And so all of the pieces are there and they're very interesting, but there's no payoff. So
Yeah.
I do agree that on its own, that's a hard sell.
Yeah.
I think my trouble is I read this as this is it, because there's no volume 1 on the cover.
Yeah.
There's no other. It was back in 2017, right? So I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
It reminded me of how I felt when I got to the end of Plutona, because I really enjoyed Plutona. There were great characters, things were happening, and then it just ended, and I'm like, but it didn't end. You know what I mean? I was like, what's this? And now I hate it. So,
and
a lot of feelings.
I'm watching an anime right now, Excel World. It's 24 episodes, and I know that it is ongoing in novel format. And so I know all of these big things they set up for me, these big world things, I am going to have no payoff for, because I'm not buying all those light novels. There is no way.
That's a bummer. Yeah.
And that's, or people who read I read Hunter x Hunter, and that's never going to finish.
Not
Yeah,
everything
I don't
can be
think it
One
is.
Piece.
More things should be One Piece, okay?
So you're talking to a fan of Carnival and Deadwood, the greatest shows of all time, both of which were cut right in the middle of being good. And you're right, Kristen. So for the listeners, viewers who may not have read this, the plot is set up as there are these political tensions going on, and this Cold War in the occupied zone is about to turn hot.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an inciting incident in which the lead character, Cade Mercer, who's a U.S. Army veteran and a mechanic, his family is, his Aunt Rude is killed by the occupying forces in a huge attack on the civilian population. His son is kidnapped. All right, the next few issues are him not rebelling against the government, but him trying to get back his son. So once he gets his son back, He basically looks at the dictator on live TV and says, I got what I wanted. You leave us alone, we'll leave you alone. If you come for us, we will come for you. That's my biggest issue with the narrative of the book is Cade Mercer, the lead folk hero, who is sold as this like John Henry type figure that will
Oh
rebel against
yeah.
the government. You never see him fucking rebel against the government. He is a reluctant leader of this military movement who is not driven by ideology. And what I wanted a story of someone who would fight for their values and beliefs, but Cade is really in survivalist mode. I just want to take care of my kid. If I get my kid back, I don't need the revolution. I don't need to defend my politics or values. Now, that's probably a perfectly realistic reaction for a father to have. But when your book's titled Warlords of Appalachia, the title is sold as a guy taking control of the DMZ and becoming a feudal warlord of Appalachia. I would like to see him actually become a warlord, which does not happen by the end of the book. It's my biggest gripe. To Kristen's point about like what would I think? What I would think is they almost get off the ground and then they cut to black.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
Doesn't make me love it less. I can love it despite its effect. Sorry,
well, and
Maddie,
I understand that
That's
because there's
also
a promise there with the Warlords deal. Because it would have been really cool if there's like several Warlords of Kentucky, and like they're different areas. It'd be really neat.
Right.
More like think about Chinese history warlords sort of deal. But I kind of like that he's a reluctant hero, and I would like that to be built up more. But I like a lot of stories that are like that. My favorite video game series is exactly that, where they're just accidental leaders of a huge change. Because I like that bit at the end, because he was like, "Hey, I was never gonna mess with you. I never had a problem. You stole my, you mess with my kid, you kill my mom. Like now it's a problem. Now I'm gonna get you. Now we're gonna show you what it's about." That's the kind of situation I like, where like this guy never planned to be and ends up being a great leader. That's why I secretly have always wanted. I want Red Hood to be Batman eventually, because I think a reluctant one is the one that's gonna do it best, not one who eagerly wants it. I'll die on that hill. I don't care. That's the Batman I want. Die mad about it. Just kidding. Please don't be mean to me. I'm very sensitive.
So have y'all
They're
seen...
all valid. I don't actually care that much. I just talk big. But I really, I would like it for him to continue about him just kind of being accidentally here and caring about the cause more, and people would just be like, "Hey, you're our leader, though." And he's like, "No, this wasn't the plan." But I mean, okay. And then once your son happens to be the messiah of blue people, now you really don't have any. You were part of a destiny that you were just damned to fill, and then that's just how it has got to be. And I like that. But again, if that happens.
Sure. I will tweet
helpful
to him again at the end of this episode and say, like, you should watch this, and we make a strong case for finishing your goddamn book.
Yeah. Because we're all upset about that.
Chris is never going to forgive them.
I mean,
Phil,
see, that's the thing, because I did enjoy it.
There's a market here. You
Till
see
the
the
end.
market on the screen right now.
Yeah.
Yep. That's why the first thing I said to you guys was it was only 4 issues, correct?
Yeah.
I thought I was missing
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And they do pack a lot into that 4 issues.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of anything else we want to talk about. If not, we can go to chat and hang out. But Lee, I know you've written notes on it.
Yeah. I've got notes on the art. It's got really throwback art. The art is really really reminds me a lot of the Image stuff from the mid '90s. In the same way the cyborg commandos do. The art has this really really good, like, pulpy quality to it. That doesn't shy away from gore, right? So I wanted to make sure that we highlight the artists in that way. The final thing that I had was that, like, because it is at the same time trying to draw this line between making a coherent political statement about the state of the nation as it was whenever Trump came into office, the nature of political society in Eastern Kentucky, and the nature of like occupied war zones in general, at the same time that it's trying to be like a little bit of a gory throwback trash comic, the way it's trying to balance those. I don't know if the tone succeeds entirely. The book is a little bit all over the place in terms of tone for that reason, but
Yeah,
I think the artists who are Jonas Scharf and Doug Garbuck, they handle that. They handle that really well. My final thought on the matter is that if we do continue, Phil, if you're watching, I really need Chris Schweitzer on this book.
Yeah.
I need Chris Schweitzer as a co-writer or a
Oh yeah.
lead artist on this whenever we come back, because
What a
one,
dream team, though.
he understands the area, he's got the artistic sensibility, he has the historic and cultural.
Well, and then you can do the campiness. If you have Chris
Yes.
there,
Mm.
you can make the campiness real.
Yeah. 100%.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
Look what he
Yeah,
did with Mars
that's
Attacks.
The best idea.
God,
the best
Mars
idea.
Attacks. 10
So
out of 10
good.
book. That's
so
4
good.
issues. But
That
it
one
was
ended.
done. 10 out of 10. Well, all right. So I'm gonna ask you guys for ratings. I know it's kind of hard because it's not done. Is done.
Ooh.
So maybe the best way to do it would be like, if this continued,
Mhm.
what do you? That's not fair though, is it? Say
I
a
have
rating
my
if it's
rating.
continued, or rating if as is.
What am I rating?
Kristen's ready to go. She's ready to go.
I got it. You want to know?
Kristen, go. Give it.
Where's the rest out of 10? That's my rating. Confidently say, where's the rest out of 10? It's the only fair way I can do this.
I like it. Let's just
Thank you.
caution to the wind. Rate as you please. Yeah, I would say if this continues, it's something that I am interested in enough. It's like me thinking ahead of the future. If this continued, I would predict it'd be like an 8 out of 10 for me. Potentially a 9, depending on how it ended. I will say, as of right now, I'm sad that it says not more, so I'll give it a cautious 6, but a polite 6, because I think it's really good, but because I don't have more to go off of, it makes me sad.
You're a sad out of 10.
I'm a sad out of 10. There we go. That's
Yeah.
more appropriate than giving it a rating.
Yeah.
I'm a
There you
sad out of 10. Joe, hard question.
Yes. I think I'm gonna give it a 6 too. I'm gonna give it a hopeful 6, and hope that he's gonna expand on this. Who knows? How long have we been waiting for Saga? I mean,
feels
it's
like a
not
long
as long
time,
as this, but you know,
Feels like a long time.
it is. So let's hope. Let's hope he sees this video. Let's hope he sees Lee's tweets, and you know, he makes it happen.
And
Phillip,
get Chris
if you
on board.
continue this,
Yeah.
we will reshoot this video and our ratings. We're holding it
Exactly.
hostage.
Yeah, we will.
Exactly.
We will invite you on the show, man.
Absolutely.
I'll be less angry. It'll be great.
Yeah, because if there was more, I would easily give this an 8 because I'm excited for what's coming. So I'm definitely giving this an 8. But I don't know what's happening. So 6.
All right, Lee.
Yeah, I am an 8 as it sits right now. The use of music, the way it balances issues in the region, the way it does a good job of showing our illustrious former president as equal parts like scary and buffoonish, all those things, with the detraction of it's not done yet. I don't quite agree with some of the narrative choices. For me, it is an 8 as it sits. If we were to continue with the series, I guarantee you it'll be like a number 1. I'll be buying hardcovers of it and sending it to people for birthday gifts and stuff.
It'll be your upgrade soul.
Yeah.
Oh man, okay, so now it's chill time. So speaking of upgrade soul, there was a video game recommended to me I haven't played yet. But they were like, I don't want to tell you anything about this game, just play it. And I was like, That's exactly how you give me to. Is this new upgrade soul? Okay. Don't look at anything about it. So chat, what's up? Ask some questions. Let's chill.
What's the game?
Inscription. Sorry,
Okay.
but apparently don't look up anything about it.
All right.
Scotty, hello. Have a great New Year, Maddie. Looking forward to more great stuff in 2022. Thank you. That's like next week.
Oh, it's so weird.
Oh no, it's weird.
It's like this week.
I hope you have a good New Year, Scotty. Such a passionate rating.
Who let her in the chat?
You should ground her.
She's in college.
Yeah, I know.
And she recently turned 21, which is very exciting. So
Let's
what
not
bourbon
talk
are
about
you
it.
I don't think Joe's super wild about
Not
that
talking
one.
about that. Nope. I'm looking at
Joe.
myself in the video. I'm seeing the grays. I'm like, oh my god, what's that?
Listen,
Hey, it looks good though.
Thank you, sir.
So Joe,
Yes.
what bourbon are you drinking? Nice.
Okay.
Full of
There
bourbon.
it is,
I think I have that in the
bourbon.
fridge.
Do you?
Again, I don't drink bourbon, but I think that's there. I think it's probably,
Who put it there?
I don't know.
Okay.
There's a lot of things in my fridge from parties. I don't know why they're there. Oh,
It's really
never
good.
mind. We bought some for like near mint shooting for collective. Omar made me bourbon cranberry.
Oh no.
He's a bourbon cranberry guy.
Is that good?
It was good. I liked it.
Okay.
Joe, when are we gonna see you next? Maybe on Omnibus Collectors Network?
I will be on Thursday. Yes.
Wait, for
Okay.
real?
For real.
What show is that?
We're doing the Omnis, which is like
Oh.
the end of year show.
Oh, that's
Awesome.
cool.
And they asked me on, so I will be there
Aw.
Thursday.
Man,
that's
they
lovely.
never ask us on, so that'd be
No,
like,
they don't care about us. We went on that one time and they were like, oof. Remember that?
I
Ooh,
remember that.
yikes. Yikes.
ugh.
I remember that.
Maybe we'll jump in the chat while Chris and I are hanging out.
Yeah. Put that on.
Nice.
Put it on the TV.
Everybody, make sure to watch mine and Kristen's socials so you can see shenanigans on Thursday. If we remember. I don't know. We'll be giggling the whole day. I don't know.
We've never done it before.
I shouldn't promise anything.
Just-
we have no
we
follow
just-
through.
Stay like 6 hours at that pizza place with that weird guy.
Good timing. You folks are looking at this while I'm playing Wasteland 3. This got some apocalyptic feels. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Which is a genre that I love. And I think that this did it pretty well. I definitely think you could have taken this and just made it Fallout instead, and it still would have worked.
Oh
You
yeah,
know?
like
Yeah.
Fallout Appalachia DLC, it will work for sure.
Absolutely. Have like the president on like the radio still speaking to everybody, and then have everyone these warlords of like what used to be Kentucky.
Can you
hide out in
imagine the
coal mines.
soundtrack?
The bluegrass?
Yeah.
More bluegrass in video games, please.
It's just the romp the whole time.
Yeah. It's everybody that's at our local bluegrass festival every
Yeah.
year. I love bluegrass. So Jane asked a question earlier, and I'm gonna present this to everybody. What's your
Ooh.
favorite trash comic? What constitutes a trash comic?
That was my question.
Yeah,
Like
that's a
one
good
you know
question.
isn't good.
See,
Or
what
is it more like-
what automatically comes to my mind is 90s,
Yeah.
like Lee said, Liefeld and like Youngblood and Brigade, Wildcats, that whole thing, Spawn. Yes.
See, okay, is Liefeld the one that makes like the big booby man?
You're already doing it. Yes.
Yeah. and all the pouches. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that the Captain America picture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Oh, okay,
fridge
okay.
cap.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I've never read Spawn. Should I read Spawn?
Nah, you good.
you
Watch
like
the
it?
HBO.
Movie.
Watch the HBO cartoon.
Yes, the cartoon is very good.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Todd McFarlane introduces every episode as if he's Alfred Hitchcock and not a little pasty nerd in a suit. It's the wildest shit you've ever seen in your life.
Okay.
It's tremendous.
I feel like there's a lot of classic stuff that like certain superheroes and things I've never read or like watched that people like hold dear to them, and I'm always like, I don't. Looking at this is one of the instances where I'm like, maybe this isn't made for me, but I'm like, maybe I should try it anyways.
Yeah.
Do you have any Joe, your favorite? What would be your favorite trash comic of the 90s?
I haven't read it in years, but I remember when it was coming out, I was all about it. Was Cyberforce by Mark Silvestri.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. Guys like Ripclaw, and I forgot some of the other characters' names, but that was my jam back then.
This is the era where
that looks great.
Yeah, this is the era where like comic books exist solely to sell action figures.
Exactly.
Joe, do you remember Cyborgs?
Yeah.
Yeah, Cyborgs was my shit for about a year whenever I was in elementary school.
Hey.
It's basically wild boars who are anthropomorphic and have had cybernetic implants, but the action figures were tremendous.
That sounds like Street Sharks. That's the closest thing I have.
Yeah, very similar. Yep, you're close.
Okay, I would have loved that as a kid. I also love that clicking on these Cyberforce like covers. It looks like any of those like how to draw comic books that came out in the 90s, early 2000s. And I'm always like, yes, this is like a comfy feeling for me.
Yeah.
They all learn from the same people. I love it. So, has anyone here watched Station 11? It's a mini-series post-apocalyptic on HBO Max. No.
That's on my to-read list, but I have not watched it.
Yeah, I hear really good things about it. Malka Older, who's one of my favorite sci-fi writers, she's been recommending it on her Twitter. So.
I did start on Lee's recommendation, Raised by Wolves. So
hell yeah!
But I've gotten sidetracked by Wheel of Time, so I'm watching that instead right now.
Catholicism, outer space, robots. What does it mean to be a parent?
It has that guy from Vikings in it.
Yeah. Fox decided to take the Aliens franchise away from Ridley Scott because he was getting way too into what does it mean to be human and is God real. So HBO said, how much money do you need to finish that idea out? And they gave him this own TV show. It's called Raised by Wolves.
Okay.
So since it's the last Oliver New Reader of the year, I'll ask a question to you guys. I'd be interested to know what some of your favorite comic books you've read this year. Especially Joe, because I'm assuming I know Kristen's.
Yeah, you probably do.
Okay, so some of my favorite books for the year I read recently. So so I'm on this Tom Taylor high. So everything this guy touches or writes, I want.
Okay, Jess.
Every time I'm like, Jess, I'm right there with you. But so All New Wolverine. I finished that Omni and I thought it was incredible.
So good.
So good.
I had no idea it was that good.
God, it's so good.
Yeah. I just finished Something's Killing the Children.
Oh yeah. Love Tinian.
I need to
everybody was hyping it around me and I try to stay away from I mean I kind of knew the premise, but I was staying away from any spoilers or whatever. I was waiting for it to be collected. So I just finished that. What else? I'm trying to find all the Pluto mangas. I can't find them for anything.
Oh yeah, I had to read mine online on like a WordPress site, which I do not condone people reading things like that, but sometimes you don't have access. And
they'll be printed again.
Read on a WordPress.
Because I read the first one and I loved it. And
Viz is having a lot of like print problems right now.
Yeah.
Because even like the One Piece, I mean, there's One Piece volumes that are going for obscene prices.
Oh, really?
It's like, those will come back. What are y'all doing?
Right. So I'll wait.
Okay.
That's really it. For instance, the last couple of days, Barnes and Noble's had a massive sale at 50% off. So I have a stack of books to my right here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I'm sad that I waited until, I wish I went on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
But I went on Monday. I think it was kind of, some of them were picked through. because I went to find a present for Kristen, which hopefully you don't.
Oh.
Hey, Kristen.
Oh,
No
yeah.
reason. But I'm worried you have it. Do you have that manga with the guy with the penguin on it?
No, because
Okay,
I'm not
good.
even sure what that is.
Okay, good. That's not
I don't-
what you're getting.
That does not sound familiar. Okay, cool. Cool.
Oh, real quick before we ask Lee, it's fascinating we put bad art and 90s together. Morrison once argued that 90s comics is like the comic equivalent to impressionist and abstract art.
So some interesting stuff happens in comic art in the 90s, right? That's not the stuff that sold great. Right? That's not the stuff that like defined the era.
When I love a lot of that art, 'cause it feels homey, like it feels comfortable best because like
Yes.
being a 90s kid, I'm like, oh, this is nice. But also it created like the one Arsenal only comic, Roy Harper, his own comic. It was like 3 issues, and it's the worst 90s art I've ever seen. Like he just looks ridiculous. Black Canary looks ridiculous. Do I have those? Yes, I still have those covers. But like, what happened to this man? But then you have great stuff like more Don Bluth style at the same time too, which is to me the most pretty a handsome a guy could be in an animated or cartoon setting. Lee, what are some of your favorite books of the year?
I don't know if they will be new books, but they will be new to me.
That's fine. That's how my top 10 was. A lot of those were older. I put Batman: A Lonely Place and Dying in there because I read it this year. It's Sweet Tooth, but those aren't new.
The first one's going to be Sweet Tooth. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Sweet Tooth
Yeah,
was
I'm gonna
really
I'm
good.
gonna say that also.
Good.
It was really good.
We're all
Sweet Tooth
together.
blew me out of the water.
And the show was good too. I don't.
And the show's good.
I agree.
I finally got around to reading, and hear me out, okay, the Mortal Kombat tie-in comics on the DC Universe app. Now, that is not to say that they are of an elevated quality.
Wait, like tie in with DC?
So Warner Brothers owns Mortal Kombat, so like DC and Mortal Kombat crossover all the time in their
Which
video
makes
games
sense.
and stuff. Yeah, like Injustice has
It's
Raiden
just-
and Sub-Zero in
yeah.
it, and but yeah, Warner Brothers owns them, and that's why they do the DC versus Mortal Kombat games. All right, so the lore of Mortal Kombat is absolutely atrocious. It's to justify an arcade fighting game. That said, there is something about the intricacy of the clan feuds and the interdimensional space dragons fighting that's just fucking dope. There's a really good podcast.
Does it stand up to the original Mortal Kombat movie? Because that is my favorite.
No, I love that. I love that.
Nothing.
crap.
We've
I
done
loved it
them.
too.
It's so
Yeah.
good. The new Mortal Kombat movie, if you haven't seen it, it's
I
dope.
enjoyed
it's really
it.
good. Really
I have
good.
not seen it yet.
I haven't
Big
seen
fan
it
of
yet.
that.
I
But
would recommend. It's fun.
those games are like an intrinsic part of like my entertainment understanding because we started playing them when I was 3 years old, so they've always been a part of my my life. And the last one, I'll shut the hell up, is death metal. Love Snyder, huge fan of Snyder, always have been. I absolutely adore Batmanosaurus. I love the Wonder Woman with the chainsaw. Dark Knight's death metal is tremendous. I absolutely loved it. And it ties into our Trash Comics conversation because that is just like Jock and Capullo and Snyder and everybody who worked on that book. That's just them having fun with the books they would have wanted to read as they were kids in the 90s. Terrific books. Love it.
And Kristen, I know you've done a show about it, but like,
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
still want to hear about it.
Sweet Tooth: The Return is one of my top books. If y'all haven't read
I haven't
it,
read it
you
yet.
new Sweet Tooth lovers, check out The Return. A lot of people rag on it because they're like, why is it return? No, I promise you, it's not what you think. Read it. It's so good.
Okay.
So check that out. Of course, T-Dragon Tapestry came out finally. T-Dragon Society books are so good. Oh, Human Star.
Oh,
Like Maddie said in her
God.
video, She didn't give me credit for introducing her. It's fine though.
Sorry.
But it's the best. The
So
best.
good. God, so good. And I need to actually buy the copies now. I keep putting it off.
They're
I
worth
just
it.
assume they're always going to be there. I know that
They're nice too. They're nice trades.
So good. Everyone should read it. It's so good. A few questions and then we'll wrap up. Anybody go to Barnes and Noble hardcover? Yes. Got Nausicaa, a bunch of Junji Ito, Paper Girls, Mom, the other history of the DC universe, Dracula Motherfucker, which I also have. Golden Age Volume 1. Is that good? Because I've almost bought it 1,000,000 times because it looks so pretty. Reckless, etc. Very nice. Very nice. Mary went to the B&N sale yesterday and today. I have no self or shelf control.
Yeah.
Mary, self control is the best. You should
I love that.
T-shirts.
Yeah.
Like, I have no shelf control. That's such a good
It's
bit.
beautiful. We have to use that now.
That's so good. My favorites this year were Lila Star, which I have pre-ordered. Geiger, Serial, and Stray Dogs. I haven't read any of those. I need to. Scotty, I think I purchased over 50 Amis this year, so I'll be reading until 2025. You know, I
That
think
sounds
we all
right.
will. I have so many books to read. And I don't. I just keep buying them. Which is fine. That's what we have
That's
to
what we
show.
all do.
We all
Yeah.
do it, right?
One of my faves of the year was how you say it?
Barbalian.
Barbalian.
Oh, yeah. It's so good.
Kind of like Martian Manhunter meets the Harvey Milk movie or something. I still need to get all the rest of the books because I'm.
That's
The
great.
Harvey Milk movie? Talk about milk. That's okay.
You added some
Well,
words
yeah,
to that.
because he's gay.
And at no point could I predict where that was gonna. All right, so that one goes on the list, I guess.
It's in the Black Hammer universe.
Yeah, which is
Okay.
fantastic.
All right.
And I need to read more of it. And I need to own all of it.
You do.
Love Sheets and Delicates, as did we all.
Yes.
Yeah. I haven't
So
read
good.
Delicates yet. I read Sheets, but I gotta get into Delicates.
That's good.
Delicates is great.
It's very good. My backlog is now a full room. You know, that's
Hmm.
basically what my basement is. Let's be real.
Yeah,
I
Maddie was
highly
like, "Oh, we
recommend-
could do a show together." I'm like, "You can't get in this room. There's too many books around."
I
What do
can't
you
wait to
mean?
see it in person again. I've seen it before, but it's
I'm
different.
gonna try to clean up for you. Put some of these on the floor on the shelf, maybe.
Oh wow, I have some. I have my books that are like meant because I need to do a haul video for winter, and I can't put those books away or else I'm gonna forget. So I just have them ready, like waiting. Like I have your presents in reach of me, like right now, because I can't put anything away. I had recommend Witch Doctor by Brandon Seifer. I haven't read that one either. When do we get the room tour in the new house? Very soon. I could have already done it, but for some reason in my mind, I was like, I need to paint the trim and the fireplace. I painted the fireplace.
No one is gonna notice that.
I know, but in my head, I was like, it doesn't look nice enough. So we are almost there. And then I'll film it.
Or just move to New York and just this one shot, you can see my entire house.
Here you go.
Yeah, but I have a house here. It's like affordable.
There's that.
Yeah. It is pretty good living here in Kentucky. I could not afford that anywhere else.
Do you have to buy another apartment for like your books? Is that how that works?
Oh yeah,
Nate?
Joe, how do you do
Oh.
it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
See
Where?
the shelves right behind me?
Yeah.
That's where the books go, and it's constantly cycling out. Games,
Mm.
books, games.
Oh yeah, because
books.
you are my board game buddy. Because I have a whole huge board game shelf downstairs too. How do you do you sell a lot? Do you just keep them? Do you have to?
I usually there's a lot of culling going on both
Okay.
ways. But in terms of games, they are hidden throughout this apartment. They're all over the place. You might
does
find games in the kitchen.
Your family
cabinet.
will plays games and stuff with you too, right?
Love
so
that.
at least it's like a shared interest.
My daughter is the only one. My
Oh.
son will give me a solid 10 minutes, and then he's like, I don't want to do this anymore, Dad. How do I get out of this?
You don't. The games are long.
Exactly. You're here. And
We
my
just
wife
broke out Mansions of Madness. We're gonna be here for 4
will
hours.
be here. Right. And my wife wants no part of it. She's like, no.
Oh yeah.
I'm good.
At least Gabby's cool.
Yeah, Gabby will play anything with me. But
That's
she's
why
super
I want you guys to
competitive.
visit, so I can be like, now we're gonna play games.
Mhm.
Let's
She's
break
really
out
competitive,
Gloomhaven
so that's the only thing with her.
and DC Deck Builder, and let's
Mhm.
hang out here in one spot for 8 hours.
Sounds good.
Jessica was on a call, and I can't wait to watch this back. Joe, yay! Jessica will also be here. 2022 Kristen room tour, Maddie room tour update video.
Now we have resolutions.
That should be the resolution. We'll schedule it. All right, guys. Well, this is a really fun show and a great way to round off 2021 on Over Your New Reader. I have not planned my schedule for next month. Please someone message me this week and hold me accountable so that I go ahead and do it, because otherwise it'll be too late to schedule a show for Tuesday, or I have to frantically call someone, maybe Gabby, to join me a day before the show happens. So please someone message me and tell me the schedule next month and give me some recommendations so that I do it. Also, if you'd like to see me and Kristen, we will be together tomorrow at 3:30.
Sometime after 3:30.
Sometime after 3:30, Omnibus Collectors Network.
Okay.
Talk about One Piece. So,
Doing it.
yeah. Thank you all. First of all, thank you to my lovely co-hosts for hanging out. Joe, now that you've been on the show, you're officially welcomed back again. So, expect the message.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's been
Of
fun.
course. I have to hear that wonderful accent again, which is normal for you but different for us, so we get to enjoy it.
We love it.
The accents here.
We'll
You have,
bribe
like,
you
a
to come on
lovely
Fangirls.
voice.
You have a lovely voice.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for sure.
Just gonna be us gassing you up every time you're on the show, like,
It's gonna be like the Taylor
Oh.
Dane joke.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Sorry to bother you.
but I just have to tell you, I love your voice.
I love your
Everyone,
voice.
Please go listen to Tig Notaro, the comedian. We're a big fan. Anyways, I hope everyone has a good night. Thank you, chat, for hanging out with us today. I hope you have a good rest of your holiday. I hope you have a lot of books to read, and I hope you have time to read them. I hope if you're watching this video later, comment down below. Tell us what you thought about Warlords of Appalachia. If you are the writer of Warlords of Appalachia, please contact us directly and tell us what's happening with the rest of the book.
Where's the rest?
What we have to do to have it. Thank you. And have a good night, everybody.